normal distribution part 2. So let's go over the table, the relationship between the table and the graph. So the area under the graph, the shaded area in here, that corresponds to the numbers inside of the red box. And we also call these numbers the probabilities. And the z-score would be the row here, and the column here. And the column is just reporting the numbers in the 10th place. And the row in here is reporting the z-score in the 100th place. So let's look at this example. The question is given 0.3708, that's the probability. Find the z-score right here. So as I mentioned, 0.3708 is inside of this table. So imagine the red boxes here, the one that I just showed you. So you cannot find this in the column or the row. So you see that 0.3708 is here. Then in order to find a z-score, we work backwards. So we can trace it horizontally and we get 1.1. And then vertically, we get 0.03. If we were to add 1.1 and 0.03 together, then the z-score would be 1.13. All right, let's look at this question. So in a bakery shop, the spending of a croissant follows a normal distribution with a mean of $32 and a standard deviation of $6. 60% of the customers would spend more than K dollars for a piece of cake. What is the value of K? So we can see that the probability has been given to us, 60%. And we can start by producing these 4 different scenarios. The first scenario is that we have K, 1 on the positive side and 1 at the negative side, and both are less than 50%. How do I know it is less than 50%? Because remember, the whole area is 100, half is 50. So if I shade in less than half, then that must be less than 50%. So we have 2 scenarios. In contrast, we have more than 50. Once again, the whole area is 100, half is 50. So if we have a little bit more than a half, then we have more than 50%. And there are 2 scenarios. One is that we have a positive K, and one is that we have a negative K. Alrighty. Now let's look at the question. 60% of the customers, we must be using these 2 because 60 is more than half. So now we're down to either a positive K or a negative K. When the question indicates more than K dollars, the word more than is usually, sorry, not usually, is absolutely shaded to the right. So more than shaded to the right. If it were to be less than, then we shade it to the left. So once again, more than shaded to the right. So this is our graph. We can now construct the equation, the expression. So we have the probability of y, we don't know what that is. Greater than K, we also don't know what that is. But we know the probability is 60%, 0.6. So 60% is 0.6. We need to find this little bit in the middle, because our table only gives us this little bit. So it's useless to find out the entire thing because the table doesn't indicate that. So this little bit, how do we find that? We go the whole area, 60%, 0.6, minus half of that. That is the 0.5, 50%. And then we're left with 0.1. And this is how you should write out the expression. So this expression in here, that is K. K is this. And then 32, that's the mean, right? And if we were to convert it into z-score, it will be 0. So 32, that is the mean, the middle part, and K is here. So Y would be in between. Now let's look at the table. 0.1, 0.0987. This is the number that is closest to 0.1. If you cannot find the exact number, you need to find a number that is closest to 0.1. And then we look at the column and the row. So 0.2 and 0.05. If we were to add these together, 0.2 plus 0.05, then we get 0.25. And it is a negative because K is negative. And this is how we write the expression. Finally, we have standardization. So this was from last week, and we were looking for Z last week. This week, we're looking for K because we're solving for K right here, K. So Z is negative 0.25, and the mu is the mean, 32, and the sigma would be the standard deviation, 6. So we can manipulate this. So standard deviation, we can multiply it to the other side, and we can add the mean to the other side. Then K would equal to the mean plus standard deviation times the z-score. And I'll just copy this right here. So 32, that's the mean, z-score negative 0.25, and sigma 6. When you put it into your calculator, you should get 30.5. So here I'm just gonna write it down in case you cannot draw the connection. But anyways, the conclusion is that the value of K would be $30.50.